Hello, and welcome to the Green Island Podcast. I'm Bernard Sheehan, co-author of the novel Hard Border. I'm joined by James Sheehan, the other author here, and my brother. The Hard Border is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Please feel free to pick up a copy. This podcast is really talking about Ireland as that book does. The Hard Border book is around the time of Brexit, but we're talking about contemporary things going on. And also we want to be relatively free of time and not really following kind of things that are going on day by day. But we've had some good news here in Ireland the last 2 days really. So we want to jump on that. First being Cillian winning the Oscar for Best Actor after basically sweeping everything, James, all year. He capped off that with winning yesterday. He's the first Irish guy to win Best Actor. I know we've talked back and forth about, the guy from My Left Foot, obviously doing great stuff, but even though he's an Irish citizen, he wasn't born in Ireland. And, so it was really a kind of, again, a feel-good story. I fully expected to be somewhat let down, like, okay, great, he won. But I was happy for him, and I was happy for Ireland as well to be able to celebrate along with him and, and really kind of relish in that. So that was kind of a nice feel-good story to see, hey, here's a win. And it was the first time, I think I've mentioned this before, first time I've been interested in the Oscars at all in like 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think this was kind of fun just to see how it did play out, just with this having this topic to talk about for the last couple, months or whatnot. But it was nice to see it conclude, in the ultimate win. So I
Right.
thought it was pretty good. I thought it was all very measured. It was all very respectful. I thought he did a good job. His speech was great, and
Yep.
they had I think they had a bunch of like Hollywood, what do you call it? Best actors on the stage. I at least saw
Yep.
Matthew McConaughey
Yep.
in the clip I saw because I didn't watch it, of course, but
And the Oscar goes to Cillian Murphy.
This is the first Oscar win and nomination for Cillian Murphy.
oh, good. They swept as we anticipated and called it way back in the day. So, hooray for us! And yeah, all good. I mean, nothing really much more to say. We'll see what his next one comes out. His next movie. I was just saying to my wife because you gotta poke some holes, and I was
Sure,
just
of course.
wondering why like the guy off The Office like dressed all in white. The John Krasinski when they they're all in black and like you're not even in the movie. Like your wife's in the movie. Why are you sticking out? And this was the
I don't
second
know.
time this award season. So that was my but everybody else did exactly like even Robert Downey Jr. was all good.
Yeah, that was a good win for him too, because that was a long comeback story. People forget now because he's dominated those Marvel movies for so long. But when they hired him for Iron Man, that was a big risk. It was something they barely could insure because he was still like, is this guy on drugs still? He had done a stint in prison. So it was a really big deal when he got that role. So to see here it is, going, I think that was like 2007, 2008, and kind of, 15 plus years later, or thereabouts now, he's won an Oscar. So that was really pretty cool too, to see that happen. But, I guess from our standpoint with Cillian winning, one of the things that was funny just seeing on X or Twitter today was Cork is never going to shut up about this now. Now that Cillian has won, they're already calling it Corkenheimer out there. That they're taking all the credit. So talk about poking holes. It never ends.
Yeah, and they deserve it. I mean, he is from Cork, correct?
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
even the Wind That Shakes the Barley, the movie we mentioned before, it was like out of Cork. So, and Cork is quintessential. That's like the big town, the big city country.
Yep.
So instead of Dublin that's trying to get people to, vote for referendums that shouldn't be happening and stuff like that, which we'll
Yeah.
get to in a little bit.
And Cork is like the second city, right? So it's kind of like Chicago is to New York or LA is to New York.
Of course.
So
Of
it's
cou-
there's
yeah,
a little
that's
bit
right.
of a chip on its shoulder, and you're kind of like, hey, you guys aren't all that great in the big city. We're just as posh as you guys, or just as important.
Well, usually in Dublin, how it works is like the next generation flows in from the country, whether that be Cork or Kerry, and kind of take over the place, and then they become kind of the new Dubliners,
Yep.
if that makes sense. And then and then you have the city, but yeah, it very much is. Cork is always up in Dublin or trying. I mean, as the second city, it was like we grew up in Chicago, and the last place I ever wanted to go was New York. So it's has that rivalry for sure.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people. New York is the same though, where people will come in, and even the surrounding areas. Unless you're in Manhattan, they don't consider it the city. So people from Long Island going into the city, or famously Frank Sinatra, Hoboken was the other side of the river. You're not in New York until you're on the island of Manhattan. So everybody's coming from outside to get there to be New Yorkers. So there's
Oh, is that right?
there's very few that are really there, and they're kind of like that old money. They go to the fancy restaurants and stuff like that, but they're not hungry. You know what I mean? It's the newcomers that are always bringing new blood into that city.
Yeah, and that's the same with Dublin.
Yep.
That's the exact same with Dublin, whether now it's kind of probably foreigners coming to Dublin, but it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
kind of everybody's marked in Ireland now as who's the players, who aren't the players, etc. So forth,
Right.
It is what it is.
Yep. So that was great.
But that's a good win, and it was kind of good to see like Cillian Murphy kind of think the director Christopher Nolan, and like is it his wife or his partner or something?
I think they're married. I'm pretty sure they're married, but
But she works with him, like she's like his second.
She's the producer.
Okay, so
like the main producer.
okay for all his movies roughly.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so they're a duo then, because he kind of take both of them, so that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, what do you call it? Has something similar. The guy who is the director of the Lord of the Rings movies, his name's escaping me, but his wife is also his business partner as well in the movies, and she's
really
a producer. Yeah, but she, just like this, it's kind of like her maiden name, so you don't really kind of associate it. But that was the way even with the Lord of the Rings and all of his stuff. Peter Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that was really good, and again, he, to see them winning, and I thought that Cillian was, appropriately, giving props back to Ireland, as he's said he was a proud Irishman, and that was really pretty cool, and you don't see that too often, so it's nice to have, again, kind of a feel-good story after we've been tracking it for, it seems like forever. So in a way, it's kind of good for us. Maybe, like you said, we'll come back and revisit the Wind That Shakes the Barley and kind of take a closer look at it and talk about it. I still haven't seen that yet. Frankly, the name kind of put me off, but, from your recommendation, it sounds like it would be a good watch.
It's definitely a good watch. I mean, it might be a little bit boring if you're not Irish, but it's definitely kind of good insight. But I think the next one, Cillian Murphy's now like a household name. Let's see what the next movie is.
Yep.
He's leading man material now.
They're talking about him for Bond, believe it or not. I don't think that's a great casting, but
no,
no,
not even close.
But that's what they do. Anybody who's from Scotland or Ireland or England, I don't even think they've had an English guy be Bond. Maybe Timothy Dalton, he might have been English, but it's kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But let's So that was really cool. But another big win, and I jumped on solo here, was the referendums the other day. An enormous win for the no side, for both that family amendment and also the care amendment, which was basically, the care amendment was kind of stripping out mom and having the ability of women to be able to stay at home and not have to work. So that was kind of a part of the Constitution, and it was, that they just the basically the government and everybody who was in the government, or any political person, if you like, from our standpoint, the establishment, they were all for it, and they pushed it as hard as they could, and they got crushed. I mean, it was just, I think, we had put it on there potentially as it was a walloping, and I've seen somebody else put that too up on Twitter, and that's exactly what it was. I mean, it was a no of 67.6% for the family one, which talked about durable relationships, to 32.3% of yes. And I know numbers don't really translate, but still. And the care amendment was 73.9% versus 26.1%. So they just got hammered. I mean, I haven't seen anything like that. And, you can see the map out there where every constituency is painted gold, that voted no, except for Dunleary, of course. And they even then, they only went for one of the amendments. The other one got shot down. So I haven't seen a whooping like that since Reagan in 1984. I mean, that is just a crushing victory, or if you like, for the government, a crushing defeat.
Yeah, and they paint it as though it was all but one. Their propaganda, they rely so much on their own bubble now. They don't know what the common man is thinking. I'm actually quite shocked. I thought they would have, I was kind of somewhat worried, because I've kind of thought that the Irish are kind of lost.
Yeah.
But maybe just the immigration is, I'm not on the ground, so I don't know how bad the immigration is. And because again, they're maybe the whitest community in the world. Well, no, let's just say Nordics, but not anymore. Not anymore. And I'm not there. I haven't been there for quite some time. So you don't know the change, and maybe they're sick of it. And their government's going to lie to them. I mean, that's what all the governments do now.
You're right.
We can't tell you the truth. You can't understand the truth. You're not smart enough for the truth, Well, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's it. And that's exactly what they were saying. They're like, oh, well, we didn't explain it enough to you guys. To idiots really couldn't understand it. It's just like, yeah, they could. They understood it. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were shutting you down. You've mucked around enough with the Constitution. You don't get to do everything you want. And this was, 10 steps too far. But, they had, what do you call it? The stage set up and everything for another victory party, like they did with abortion a couple of years ago. And even before the vote tallies were even being any close to being released, they were pulling that thing down. So, I mean, they had fireworks planned and everything. And it was like, okay, guess you guys lost if you're taking down the stage.
I guess everybody took the red pill, or they're waking up, because I would assume it'd be just like those ones where it's just like a fait accompli, and we're all celebrating. Let's start the parade. And they probably just thought they'd ram it through, because they're all living in their bubble, all getting rich off the bubble. And now they're kind of going out to the common man that's not making as much money, as us. We don't believe you, and changing the Constitution. If you're lucky to get them to abide by the Constitution as it stands today, the stuff they were going to put in would make the whole place anarchy.
Right.
It'd be crazy. Everything would be, our country would be gone.
Yep.
So at least kind of they held on to it for a little bit longer, because they'll be back again, as they already threatened in the papers. It's just, it's ridiculous.
Well,
it's a government versus the people now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But, Sinn Féin, they were the ones, it was that leadership who was saying, oh, we're just going to turn around. And they backed down off of that now, at least for today. So I think that they got their bell rung, but good on this,
Well,
so
they better, because they got probably the most conservative guys in probably Ireland on the Sinn Féin. I mean, if you're looking at the heart, within reason of kind of, we're not going to let our country go to the refugees or migrants. those are the guys you don't want to mess with, you know?
Well, not anymore. I mean, after because Sinn Féin was backing this just as much as, Fianna Fáil and Fine
Of
Gael.
course.
So,
Yes.
everybody is feeling like we can't trust you either. So they blew it. If they thought that they were going to be the head, the head at the trough, sort of thing, they blew it. They blew their chance. And
Well, that's a big sign if you kind of look at now the elections again for America and across the world, because they said 2024 is going to be like the biggest election season in the history of the world, like from just voting that in the free world, the amount of voting that's going to take place in this year above all years will be above all years. So taking into the consideration that like they're all seem like they're getting away from the left-leaning policies, it's a big eye opener because they were so sheepish in Ireland.
Yep.
I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too. That was the thing, because I was, on Twitter and, on the Irish, if you like Ireland Twitter, and you would see people saying like, hey, are you voting yes or no? And it was like 94% of people are like, no, there's no way I'm voting no on both of these. But, that's just kind of like, well, you don't know what that really means. Do you know what I mean? And are they really going to show up? And they were trying to say, oh, it was low voter turnout, that's why we didn't get our votes out. That's not the case. It was pretty solid turnout. It was like 50% across the board. And, but you had places like Donegal, which had the highest percentage of no. They had like 84% of the people, up there are voting no for both. So it's like,
And they would.
Or I'm sorry, 84 at least for the Kerr Amendment, which got crushed even more. So, I mean, to me, that is a, just a huge, pushback on these folks, and they better wise up. I don't think that's going to happen, because the next thing on the docket is that hate crime legislation. That's the one, if you've got stuff on your phone that they don't like, they'll throw you in jail. So it'll be interesting to see if they try pushing that now with this environment, because their political environment has just been turned upside down.
I think the global political environment's been turned upside down. If this is just a petri dish of what's to happen, I mean, you don't understand. The Irish were so liberal, every single one of them, and to even get a no vote at 60-something%, they all got red pilled. Something I think they, and to be honest with you, because I haven't been there, I can't comment on directly, but I'd say the government got sloppy because they got away with freaking everything, right. And they were just, because they had it all locked up to the courts and people were tired, people couldn't fight, and they just got sloppy. But they forgot that people still had one thing you couldn't take away from them, and that's their vote, and screw you. And it's just like now they're starting to realize, but let's see what happens, because the powers that be, which is not the Irish government, it's the Irish government's bosses, are going to say, oh, we'll do it a different way,
Sure.
It's not done, it's just delayed.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to be their, their attitude. But that's also for the people, too, to say, no, let's push the advantage now. We've got them on the run. Let's hunt them down. Figuratively speaking, of course. But,
no better man than Conor McGregor. Get that fight on the books and then get going, Be on the war path.
Exactly. And this is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, this was a vote of no confidence for the government. So it's like, is there going to be a new election that comes up? Because this is, I mean, it's...
Well, see, that's a uniparty. They're literally, the two parties are literally together in government.
Right.
Like, you can't get more uniparty than the fact that they're the uniparty. So where else can you go? You have to get rid of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because they are the same people, Bern. Like, it's ridiculous. They're both sides of Fine Gael and Fine Gael. They're the same. It's the same person. It's the same. Like, I think one didn't want Michael Collins back 100 years. Sorry, to give up the top 13 colonies. Right. And now it's just like, so they Fine Gael, the guys who are like, oh, let them just give away the 13 and we'll have this part and we'll be fine and we'll have the South. And that's what they warned about. And I think, so anyways, it's just rubbish, but they're all thinking the same, like pro-abortion. They're the same person. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's the establishment. Like you say, it's the uniparty. So regardless of whether flipped with Michael Collins or whatever, I mean, that's 100 years ago now or 90 years ago. And they're exactly the same now. But at the same time, it's what's going on now a couple of days later that's really, quite honestly, fun to watch. It's like the Spider-Man meme, the one where they're all pointing at each other. Everyone is blaming each other. The Greens are out there saying like, oh, it was the other parties. They were the ones who wanted this, not us. I mean, it's just hilarious to watch.
Is that right? Is that
yeah.
right? I haven't watched that much. Is that right? They're they're playing the blame game that much?
Big time. And
really?
And you've got like one or two that are coming up, and this is an opportunity, folks. Check out our Twitter page on X, Green Island Pods. Where we're tracking this too. But one of the things
we're going to be right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of that.
Yep. And one of the things that's there is like you've got like the odd, kind of TD or whatever coming out saying like, you know what, we really shouldn't push this hate crime legislation, or we should wise up. We should really start talking to people more, things of that nature. It's just like, I mean, again, some of these guys know that their jobs are on the line. So
yeah, exactly.
And I think one of the things that you hit on, which is really going to be the major thing and is probably what woke them up, was immigration. The immigration, the implications coming out of this regarding that piece are pretty huge, because it's crazy. I mean, it's just, we see it here in the U.S. You see the Texas border, people streaming across. It's not any better in Europe. I mean, they're just arriving by planes and boats, and they're there. They're clogging up the airports, and they're coming in, and they're like, yeah, we own this place now, and we want this and we want that, and hey, why aren't you putting us up and feeding us? Don't feed us your crap food. Give us good food and give us spending money. And it's a free-for-all. I mean, it's basically, like you would see in
and take
Black
over
Hawk
our
Down.
hospitals and getting checkups and everything. I mean, in the States, I think they're taking over all the VA hospitals to even just do basic checkups.
Yep.
And but if you think of Europe is kind of the 4 years that Hillary got robbed from her where she was going to do this. Right. Europe went ahead with it.
Yes.
So Europe is virtually 4 years ahead of where we are in America, where America is getting trounced right now. Now, we're only seeing it maybe in the major cities, but it'll come out to the suburbs soon enough when they try to displace all these people all around the place, you know?
Well, that was the thing, you would see it because these places like Texas and Florida were like, hey, we're not going to deal with all these immigrants on our own. Okay, New York, you say you're a sanctuary city. Here you go. We're going to start sending them up your way. Or Chicago, the same way. But what would happen is, especially in Chicago, we saw it under, here with Lori Lightfoot, she would still be like, okay, don't stop that bus, just turn it around and send it outside of city limits. So there was a lot, they were showing up in various suburbs there with, bus loads of people. So it's interesting to deal with, but at the same time, I think that, like you said, folks are really starting to wake up. I mean, here and hopefully in Ireland as well. I think in Europe,
particularly like the young moms that have to compete in schools, they can't afford private schools, or you're like or the city inner cities that like are Democrat voters or liberal voters that are like, I can't get the resources I'm entitled to because it's going to the migrants that showed up illegally and shouldn't be here. So it's causing problems everywhere, but I mean, it's certainly by design. But as you can see, it might be the breaking point, but I don't see the elite stopping anytime soon. They want the breaking point. It's all built into their model anyway, I would assume.
Oh yeah, they're going to keep on going for sure. But at the same time, like you said, you've got folks who live in places within the city and they're going to City Hall and they're yelling at the mayor, and that's like his main constituency. And those are people who are yelling them down, saying that like, hey, you're taking our resources away from us. That's only going to be able to go on for so long. But in Ireland, if they wise up and they figure that this current referendum, votes, are stand-ins for that issue, they might wise up, but I don't know. I don't think here in the U.S. they're going to do that until November when it's Trump versus Biden, and Biden's got a whole, ton of amphetamines he can take or whatever he's gopped up on.
He's done. Biden's done. Like, there's no coming back from just the look of him and everything. Like, after the SCOTUS, like everybody knows now, he won't. And I think that's the same with the government. But what are they going to do? Like, okay, Trump gets in. I don't know. I say they'll try to, like, these people are taking no prisoners now.
Right.
So, they won't let Trump go in because it'll start something, but it'll be interesting, like, to start up new parties in Ireland and get rid of the old regime that everybody in there had been in there for like 40 years.
Right.
Well, they're all, it's just crazy. They vote him in again and again and again and again, You need some billionaire to go in there and give like nobody's money to kind of like get votes, but until that happens. But let's see. I mean, maybe it's the tipping point. I'm not in Ireland, so this could be the petri dish.
Yeah. Well, it's St. Patrick's Day week, so anybody who's in government is flying out to some other country to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, whether it's in New York, Chicago, or if it's in, Krakow or whatever. I mean, this is when they go visit. And
so they were going to go with the big win in their belts, being the progressive. Look what we did, and blah blah blah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And now that's all turned out. Now they're losers. So I'm loving it. I'm here for it. And I think that, it's great for us to be able to talk about something good for once, because it doesn't happen.
No, it's great. Now you need someone like Conor McGregor to get some other people rolling and kind of like, don't let them come up for air.
Yep.
That's the thing. Like, if you let them kind of just months go by, and this happens with everything, kind of months go by, never happened. We'll try it again. And no one's learned the lesson. So I think they must have convinced, like, from what I understand, is that like the 20-year-olds are waking up a bit because they're not getting the jobs that they were kind of promised.
Okay.
And so maybe that's kind of socialism or whatever, but who knows? Like, again, the refugees coming in and taking people's resources is not a good idea. Yeah. Because people inherently are selfish and say, well, that's my money. Like, I'm a resident and you're giving it away, as you said, to people that want good hotels, good meals, good whatever. It's crazy. It's like, why are you doing this?
And it is that same dynamic here in America too, where you'll see folks who are saying, listen, why are you sending money over to Ukraine when that should be going to
100%. 100%.
And they're happy to cut those checks, and people are like, what the hell, man? Our economy is kind of teetering on the edge, and every dollar you spend out the door is increasing inflation. But
because they're borrowing it and just printing it. Yep. Like, it's not even like we have the money in a piggy bank and you're giving it away. That was gone a long time ago. And now you're so far in debt where you're just increasing the line of credit. Yep. It's ridiculous, giving it to other countries. And then you have like Mitt Romney saying it's the most important vote. I can't believe these guys that used to run for Republican president. I mean, I'm just shocked. Like, now that I look like Romney, McCain, fucking George W.
Well, that's the uniparty here. That's the uniparty here. That's they're all in it together as well. Cheney and Cheney's daughter. All those people are the same. So that's the thing. That's the threat to Trump, or why he's such a threat, should I say? Because he definitely is outside of them, and like you say, they're going to do everything they can to stop him. And that's if he wins, because in the last couple of days, I think he's feeling strong and he's saying stupid stuff. So he needs to be disciplined, not shoot from the hip Trump. But that's another,
like, on the vaccine and stuff.
Yeah,
like, stay away from the vaccine.
Yeah,
it wasn't a success.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He just won't shut up about stuff. But
and stay away from Jared. We don't want to see him anywhere near the place.
Exactly. So, but still, hey, good news out of Ireland. 2 big wins here in the last couple of days. I'm sure we'll be seeing, talking about more bad news, but maybe we can kind of take a step back.
Well, I think Conor McGregor may have got his fight date. I saw a glimpse come across my feed.
All right.
That maybe it's locked in, and we can talk about that because he needs to get that done before he can roll on the president. But I would say he'd be amped up about this too. Like, if he's like, this is a chance to roll over these guys. They're such powder puffs. It's just ridiculous, the politicians, because again, they're doing it their entire lives. It's like, oh, I go down to my constituency, it's all fun and games, blah, blah, blah. It's like, and then go back and do the mingling and the coffees and the chit chat and why they screw over their people for the benefits of EU and foreigners.
Right.
I think people got to start to wake up.
Well, that's the thing. They've got to go to those WEF conferences and say, hey, look what we did. Look what we did in Ireland, and kind of show off what they've done. And they're not able to do that this weekend, which is so delicious.
Where are the freaking pollsters? Like seriously, I mean, that's an absolute annihilation. Where were the pollsters saying, I don't think, or did they even poll?
I don't know.
You don't know. They're so stupid.
Yeah, I didn't see any polls, but one of the things is, I mean, of course, you talk about Uniparty. I mean, the whole media establishment is pushing them too. So it's not like anybody's going out there and getting real numbers and finding anything out, because they all live in that bubble. I guess it's the Dunleary bubble is what it seems like, because I don't know where these people live, but
yeah, the Dunleary bubble is the high end, like super part of Dublin on the ocean that has, the $15 million houses,
okay.
or at least 7 or 5 million euro, like posh, where Bono lives.
Okay. So they're all, talk about being out of touch with
100%. But that's what happened in Australia. They tried to give extra rights in the Constitution to the Aboriginal people that make up like 1% of the population, that they didn't even really want it. And it got killed because people are like, well, what are these rights? And it's just it was really a way to just screw the Constitution over. It's creating 2 tiers of people. Effectively, it's like, the lesser, let's say, not so bright or privileged in society would say, the Aboriginals should get more rights in the Constitution. It's just like, do you know what you're doing? It got absolutely annihilated, and everybody's like, okay, now we want to look at all you directors and that spent our money, these shareholders, on something that we didn't approve of, because it's all directors like, oh, I want to spend 10 million on this campaign. I'm the, on the board and this board member has no equity in the bank. No, he's just there and he's spending their money like it's going out of style.
Yep. That's like Disney. The head of Disney has very little Disney stock, and what he sold off recently. So these people don't have skin in the game. And Ireland was talking about it too for these referenda, whatever. They spent 20 million euro. People are like, why did you spend this money? What is this? So I think we're going to be moving away from the Connor or from the Cillian stuff, which is great. But I think the referendum piece here is going to have some lasting consequences. There's going to be a lot of fallout from it, and I'm, here for it. Quite honestly, I love to see it.
Well, if it doesn't, we're going to start it. Let's get the momentum going with our little podcast that could, and Twitter page. Catch us on Green Island Pods.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks for hopping on, Jay. Appreciate it. I'm so glad we were able to talk about this and kind of go through it together. And, folks, again, please like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Come onto our Twitter page and follow us there. And we'll talk with you next time. Hopefully we'll have some more good news. And if not, we'll be back to normal. But appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining. And Jay, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, great, Bern. Thanks very much.
All right,
Bye-bye.